What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions All-Stars 5 review, but this time we're taking a look at a reissue figure, and this is one that I legitimately needed. Of all the figures that are being reissued in this wave, this is the one that I actually didn't already own. So we're taking a look at Ilgarr, and he, for the longest time, was stupid expensive, and which, you know, is very much par for the course with some of the older Legions. Thankfully, he finally made the cut and we can get our hands on him. Now, he comes in, of course, our standard Legion style packaging. He's a regular figure. Collector-friendly stuff, take him out, put him back in. So you've got him there in the window. You've got your faction card on one side. You've got your bio card on the other. And then the back of the box, which is the trend for this particular wave, gives us a cross-sell for All-Stars, as well as our Alithia backer card artwork and our write-up for Mythos. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legions Ilgarr figure. Again, a figure that I needed because, well, I just didn't have him. You know, I literally needed him. I didn't get him back in Mythic Legions 1.5. Way back. Seems like a lifetime ago since this guy actually came out. And I'm not so sure that he sold all that well. You know, as is the case for a lot of those older figures, the amount of them that were in the wild was pretty low, and his price for the longest time is just, I mean, stupid in terms of how much people were paying for this guy. So it's a nice way for people to finally get a hold of him again, and it's a skeleton, so I'm obviously interested at face value, but this figure doesn't really bring anything new to the table, nor really did he at the time either. He's mostly just a normal skeleton Legion builder, but he has a few different things. Like, you've got a different belt, and we're going to have different pauldrons to talk about, and of course, weaponry. What is exciting about this guy is the paint, the colors, and the styling, because he's got this, like, crazy rusted patina look about him, which you just don't see across the line. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. You know, I mean, I guess if you've messed with 1.0 skeleton, you know exactly what's about to happen here. So we've got a head that can look up, he can look down. You've got your tilt, you've got rotation, of course, neck will move as well. We've got our arms that go out at the shoulders, and once again, I love the fact that this rubber armor is here so that it can go up and over the shoulder, not get in the way. Rotation, we've got our single jointed rotating elbow 90 degrees, you've got swiveling gauntlets, we've got lateral hinges and rotation at the wrist. You've got your single torso piece, so it goes backwards a little bit, it goes forwards a good bit still, tilt side to side some, and then you've got your rotation. Legs on these guys are always sort of the weird point because they go out, and they're really tight on him. They go forward, like, all the way. They go backwards, all the way. But he's a skeleton. Skeleton legs in this line do not have a thigh swivel. So what you see here is what you get. You get your single-jointed 90-degree knee, which does have rotation, though, so it's not a huge thing to not have a thigh swivel. And you still got your rotation at the top of the ankle. Really nice rocker. And then, of course, you've got some hinge action down there as well. So, again, if you've messed with a single 1.0 Mythic Legion skeleton, you really know what's going on here. He is that same framework, he just happens to look a little different. And the look is, I think, the main reason to get this figure. It's unique, it's his signature, it's different compared to every other skeleton. Of course, he does have a slightly different mixture of parts compared to a normal Legion builder for a skeleton. I mean, the belt is different here, that's basically it as far as what's different between a normal skeleton Legion builder. We do have different pauldrons that we'll talk about as well, but it's all about this look. So he is, I mean, to put it bluntly, he's just dirty and disgusting. Where the bones on a standard skeleton would be, you know, very much bone color and white, they are muddy and very covered in paint here. There's a ton of dry brushing and just muck thrown all over the bones. On Ilgarr, he's very nasty, and it's just supposed to signify the fact that, you know, he's old, he's ancient, and he's just been in the thick of it for forever, essentially. And I really like the fact that his bones are really dirtied and gross, so it makes him stand out in that regard. But beyond that, it's the armor. It's this color scheme, this sort of orange and green look. So it's obviously meant to be mimicking in some ways a rusted to patina look here. So, you know, coppery kind of colors, because he does have a copper base on the armor, which, I mean, the whole entirety of his armor is metallic and shimmery and has a nice luster to it. But then it's come over top with a tremendous amount of orange on the inlay, which I'm always going to be a fan of. But then there's a nice fading on a lot of it in various parts, and I'm assuming that, you know, figures are going to vary from piece to piece in terms of exactly how this is applied. But you've got all of this sort of, you know, light green that's going to make it look like the copper is becoming patinaed and oxidized, so it's transitioning from, you know, rusted to full-on patinaed, and it looks great. I really like it. I've always been a big fan of this design and this style. I know that there's some folks who don't care for this, and it's going to vary from person to person, obviously, because this is a pretty specific look for this guy. I feel like you could easily army build him, though, and take a handful of these and just have this, like, nasty group of really ancient, old skeletons, if you weren't so inclined to do that yourself, because I know a lot of folks like to dirty up their figures, but this guy comes pretty much, you know, kind of dirty. The armor isn't exactly as dirtied. It very much just has a sort of ancient metal quality to it, but the bones are where all the nastiness is on him. And then, of course, he does have a pretty unique belt. We don't see this one all that often. It's got the two straps for weaponry, so you do have a little bit of weapon storage on him. But I really like this design. I really like this mixture of parts. And again, it's not the most exciting figure at face value, and I'm not really trying to say that in a negative sense. It's just, it's a skeleton, and we've got a bunch of skeletons, so it's nothing new there. But it's the ability to get this guy again that I think makes him a little bit more exciting for me, because I finally get to have one in my collection and hold him and kind of, you know, soak in all these details. And specifically, again, this paint scheme and the idea that they're trying to sell with this one. Because I'm, you know, I've said it a million times, I love Mythic Legion skeletons. It's my favorite thing in Legions for sure. So to get another one that I don't already have in a very unique color scheme is pretty sweet. And then, of course, you know, to top it all off, we have one of my favorite head sculpts in the line. This is just our standard skull, but there's so much detail in here, and you can see so much of it with this release because the entire thing is covered in all of this muck and grime. So you can see all of the cracks and the splintering on the actual skull itself, which I really love. I love that little detail that they sculpt all of those cracks that are, you know, legitimately in a skull. So it's a really cool looking figure, great paint applications, very unique design, good mix of parts, and a slightly different take on a figure that we've had in this line for a really long time now. Now, when it comes to accessories, this is where Ilgarr becomes quite a bit more unique, especially in comparison to any other skeleton. So he gets an extra head sculpt that is not a skull. So you get a way to transform him into something that is just a little bit different from what we usually get with, well, pretty much any other skeleton. So he gets the barbarian style head that is the fully armored head with the humongous beard, and then you've got the feathered fins that come off the top of the helmet. So, you know, this is not a new helmet. It certainly wasn't new at the time. It's just in a different color scheme. So, of course, it's got that copper look, it's got that rusted look, it's got that patina look, and it has these huge blue feathered wings that come out of the side, which I think absolutely add a really nice pop of color. The only downside to this head is, of course, and it's always been this way, is that it does impact articulation. So especially with these pauldrons, because these pauldrons have these big spikes that stick out the front, so when you've got him set up like this, his head is really, really, really locked down. But of course, you know, if you just want to change up the look, this is a really, really good way to do it. If you don't use the pauldrons, he does have a slight bit more range at the head. But I do love these pauldrons. These are some of my favorite in the entire line, and this is another thing that is different from a normal Skeleton Legion builder because they don't have these style of pauldrons. So more of that copper color with more of that patina. Not quite as heavy-handed on the pauldrons as the rest of the figure, but I think it works pretty well. It adds a nice shock of just metallic sheen up there in comparison to this huge bushy beard that he's got. And then, of course, he does have a few weapons to speak of also. We've got a shield. So just sort of a standard blackish gray shield. Of course, it's got the handle, not the clip that would have originally come on this. And then we've got a axe. Well, we've got a knife here that's going to fall. Let's talk about the knife. We've got a knife, silver blade, gold handle, and you can, of course, put that in one of these loops here. So he's got the ability to store that on him. You got an axe. We've seen this a number of times. Wooden handle, and then just sort of a gray looking blade with a little bit of inlay, craggy, rocky texture to it. And then you get a standard sword. And this is a little bit different too because we don't normally get a lot of dirtied weapons. Just off the top of my head, there are very few. I mean, Clavian comes with some, so he's another skeleton that has something like this, but it's not exactly the same. So it's just got some muck, and it very much goes along with the fact that he is just incredibly dirty. And then, of course, you can put this in the other one down here, so you can have him hold both of those swords without the need of anything else. But as usual, you know, you do get a strap if you want to use that. No back adapters with this guy either. I'm assuming that's going to be throughout the wave. But you get the ever-present strap if you need one to add to your collection of about 1,000 probably at this point. So he does come with a pretty solid array of accessories, standard weapons, which is to be expected for a figure of this era with Legions. But it's all about this head sculpt and these pauldrons. The pauldrons for me absolutely change the entirety of the skeleton because it's so different from a normal skeleton Legion builder. And then of course this head absolutely takes that up another notch and makes him into something very different and something a little bit more unique compared to just, you know, any other bone boy you've got on your shelf. So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm very happy to finally have this guy. That's a huge thing for me with this particular figure. I didn't have to break the bank to get him, and I was never going to do that. He was never that important to me to get crazy and spend, you know, triple digits on this figure. He's cool. He wasn't that cool, so I'm really happy that he finally made the All-Stars cut, because I think he's a really awesome figure. If you like skeletons, this is one to get, because not only, you know, is it that really cool 1.0 skeleton, which is still my favorite, but it looks tremendous. The paint is through the roof on this guy, tons of detail, crazy color scheme, crazy idea, and of course you can change him up into something very different for a skeleton when it comes to using that extra barbarian style head. It just makes him into something a little bit more unique, something a little bit different. Why not have a skeleton with a beard on your shelf? There's nobody to say you can't do that. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions All-Stars 5 Plus Ilgarr. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.